Okay, we continue to review the book The Modern, Move by Move, written by Cyrus Lakdawala. After the game with Duncan Sattles, there is a chapter called Pseudo Dragon. The Pseudo Dragon begins with e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, knight c3, d6, and then there is bishop e3, e6, like he showed us before, queen d2. Here we see the same thing that we have seen with Fischer, right? Knight d7, and here there is f3, and this is the end, because here there is a big written comment by Cyrus. He writes, "Some players are so loyal to their ideals that they can never be bought off or negotiated away from their core beliefs. In this case, your opponent is likely a pure attacker who believes black has committed the original sin of falling behind in development without culpability, and white feels is the instrument of divine punishment to come. However, matters are not so simple. We, on the other hand, refuse to make eye contact with white, frustrating attempts to open the position at every turn. I actually believe we enter a favorable version of the Sicilian dragon." So guys, you must understand, it's not only studying one opening that will give you a repertoire, it's knowing how you can change from one pawn structure to another in a favorable way for you, okay? So it says, why favorable? There are two critical differences. I believe both to be in black's favor. One, the black king, unlike in most dragons, remains uncommitted. And this is a way that is important, because if you don't know if he's going to castle there or the other, you don't know where to attack, right? White has trouble hunting down a moving target. Black can castle queenside, keep his king in the middle, or castle kingside later on. 2. Black pawns are rather fixed and rigid in most dragons. In the modern, the opposite is the case. White may attack the same way as a dragon, with f3 and g4, right? And then h4. This is the way you attack in the dragon, and you castle on that side. But black has access to a million shifts in the structure. For example, he can play his pawn to h6, or h5, or leave it on h7. Black may develop his knight to f6, but can also play e6 or e5, and then obviously, so it becomes something different. With e6, it seems more than a hippopotamus, right? So that's a possibility. And also knight h6 in some cases, it says. In essence, black structure remains a lot shiftier in the modern. In a sense, the first two chapters are the most important of the King's Pawn section of the book, since they are so common. I arrive at position from chapter 1 and 2 in about 60% of my modern games, so study them well and be familiar with black plans and ideas. And this is ends, and now we go to a game that it was played between Eichler C and Hillarp Persson T. Hillarp Persson is famous because I think he has written, I don't know if about the modern or one of the system, so I think it's kind of interesting. Okay, so e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, knight c3, d6, bishop e3, a6. Okay, Welcome to the strange place called the modern defense. Instead, if he instead of playing this would have played this, knight f6, would be our cousin the Pirk. How do the modern and Pirk differ? The answer is, in the Pirk, black plays a very early knight f6, which usually induce knight c3 from white. This means Pirks tend to be king's-pawn games. Black in the modern, on the other hand, delays the development of a g8 knight. This means white has the option of entering e4, d4 or c4 Indian defenses like structure, which we will examine later in the book. Also, by avoiding an early knight f6, we take most of the sting out of white's dreaded e5, okay? Which can be some painful for some poor misguided Pirk folk out there. The modern pawn structure tends to be a lot more fluid, and I believe the positions flow toward the abstract more than the straightforward one reached from the Pirk. Okay, so let's see how it continues here. White, obviously I think we already have seen how it continues, because after a6 there is queen d2 taking bet, right? Here it says, what do we do if white plays f4 here? And he says, please see chapter 3 on the Austrian attack. It's just a transposition, okay? And now, what do you think you play as black? He just told you don't play knight g6, knight f6, so you have to play knight d7, right? And here it says, question, what is black's plan? Answer, generally black strives for a delayed and possibly favorable Sicilian dragon, with a hint of Sicilian Najdorf, because of that. Perhaps more at Dragodorf, by continuing with bishop b7, rook c8, c5. So this is the idea, right? Probably track, 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 track. Okay, so here you have a plan. Okay, so let's see. And here, this is what we just saw, right? f3. What is the point of playing f3? Answer, defense of the e-pawn is one of white's biggest headaches in the a6 modern lines. By reinforcing e4, white simply frees himself from this worry. White also invariably plans a pawn storm with h4, h5, and going bonkers on the king side. As we will learn, the only problem with white's plan is that nobody told him black king doesn't have to make his own on the king side yet. Yeah. So sometimes we get the effect of a heavily armed SWAT team raiding an empty home. The downside to 6 f3 is that it's not developing move and blocks f3, the natural square for this knight, right? This in turn tends to clog white's development. How do we proceed if white stops us from early b5 with 6 a4? So instead of f3, it plays this. Answer, we take a look at the hippopotamus lines next chapter. Like I told you guys, this was logical when he said this, and then there is this and this. These are the hippopotamus lines. So one must be flexible and change depending on what white does. Because if you are not flexible in this kind of openings, you are going to pay. And as you can see, you have to discover more than just one opening, because here is speaking of a Sicilian Najdorf, is speaking of a dragon, is speaking of a lot of different openings. Yeah, which I'm okay for, honestly. I mean, no big deal for me, because I do believe that one must be a complete player, and the complete player cannot play only one opening. He must be acquainted with all of them, and then be able to decide in which direction to go depending on what white does, right? So black continue with b5, and now in fact there is a4, which makes sense. Here it says a common theme in the a6 and b5 modern lines. White 6 confrontation, while he remains slightly ahead in development. And he says instead, in the next 3 games, he will teach you about h4 instead of a4, okay? So that's important. And then there is also the possibility of g4 instead of a4, okay? So he covers all the bases. That's good. That's something good. b4, obviously, the thing is, guys, you must not do like me, that I got all these books. Sometimes I don't even know where they are, so I have a problem finding them, and then I don't read them. That's my sin, because I don't read them because I don't have time, or I start to read a book and then something happens and for a week I can't continue. It's terrible. That's the truth. Okay, after b4, obviously knight d1, right? The main move. Question, isn't it passive? Answer, it is, but white may later transfer the knight to f2, where it backs up e4, right? And he may also have a role in a kingside attack. Okay, so what does black do here? Obviously, when you have this diagonal, you generally try to open it, and that's the move, c5. And here it says logically chipping away at white's center and the long diagonal. By the way, there was another possibility here. There was knight d5 that white could have played, and here it gives a comment. So eventually get the book and you will be able to read the comment. Because if I read every single comment by Cyrus, probably they find me dead in the next century. c3, challenging black space on the queen side. Question, why not push past to d5? And here it says, believe it or not, I only found a single game in the database with that plan, so this. The implication, it isn't very good for white. Black seems to have a nice look, King's Indian-like position, and here he mentioned that he follows a Houdini plan, but Houdini doesn't exist anymore. This is the thing about opening books, guys. These opening books generally are based on some engine. The problem is Houdini is before the NNUE, and so the AI, the artificial intelligence, this kind of special ways that they had to play, and so it's possible that Houdini would lose every game against an engine. Again, we are not engines, so maybe it doesn't matter at all, because by move 9 you don't even remember what you should do. And so I don't know, guys, I don't want to tell you something that But the truth is also that by move 9 maybe you don't remember what to do. B takes e3, B takes e3, and now there is finally knight g f6. Then we have bishop d3, castle. As you can see, guys, I believe the way to learn is through watching many games, and so you must love it. You must love that opening, you watch many games, and then you cover all your bases. Knight e2, and now there is a c takes d4. He says black could also retain the tension with queen c7, okay, it's a possibility, and he gives a line, a big line, because he arrives at like move 21, while we are at move 12, so obviously kind of big line. And now c takes d4, and of course e5. Now, after e5, I think you need, as black, to have calculated a couple of continuations, right? So, what are these continuations? What should have... here, for example, it doesn't say... He says that he should have played this. This is the move to play. Instead, he played this. And that is a kind of mistake. So here you actually need to pause the video if you want to play this opening and try to find out what you would play as black, okay? Because if you don't do that, you're not going to learn this opening. Here I hope you block, so you had your time, and now I tell you what's going on. Exercise, combination alert. White attempts a misguided intention to play in King's Indian Samish style, with added benefit of an open queenside. Black has access to a tactic which destroys the dream. Do you see it? So why White didn't play this and played this? Because he said, wow, you have this, it's a back foot pawn, it's fixed, so it's a dream, right? But unfortunately, it's not a dream. Because black plays boom. Can you imagine? Great move, huh? Now, obviously, if White understood he made a mistake, he would just back up. But generally, when you see this thing, you don't think it's a mistake, so you try to take, right? And when you take, obviously you're going to pay. Oops. And this is a double attack. Tack, tack, right? White must cough up the extra piece with interest. So probably the best move for White was this. Instead, White played Rook c1. And once you play Rook c1, boom. And notice how ugly is the position now for White, right? So what do you think White is going to do here? He played knight f4, but obviously it's not finished. Now, as you can see, you should have watched the videos on pawn structures, because here black changes the pawn structure in a way that we need to know what to do against the isolated queen pawn, okay? So the move is boom. And after this, takes, takes. And so we have an isolated queen pawn, right? And here it says, does black stand better or is he winning? Answer, the disconcerting truth. 1. White is temporarily down a pawn. 2. He lags in development. 3. Black owns the bishop pair. And 4. Black rules the dark square. Conclusion, what happens when things are worse for white than the worst case scenario? Okay, so here white cannot take this because it would be attacked directly, and I hope you guys have seen enough games of what happens when you delay the king in the center. Kasparov was great to show it, Morphy was great. Every player of a top level will show you that they will kill you if you leave the king in the center. Okay, and of course here Lakdawala show it to you. I honestly don't care to show it to you because this is something you need to learn about the middle game. Okay, so what does he do? He immediately escape from the center because otherwise it would be death. So to take on d3 was crazy. Okay, now what is going to play now? Black, right? What do you think black is going to play? Here it seems the engine of that time says that rook e8 was winning for black, but instead black played bishop h6. So how does our friend continue? Knight f2, queen d6, and here there is a mistake by white. The mistake is rook c4. And once more, guys, the best move was g3. He should have played this, because this would have given him some chances to stay alive. Rook c4 is over. Why rook c4 is over? You need again to try to stop the video, pause the video and think, what would you do in this situation? I will try to help you. No, you need to find a move that brings more of your pieces into the game, because in order to win you need to have all your pieces into the game. So which move is that? First of all, you must understand you have these two pass pawns that are important. Then there is this bad one. What do you do here, right? And this is why, in my opinion, it's more useful to watch games than do tactics, because in those tactic trainer the moves are all kind of obliged, must played. In a game you need to understand the position and what you're doing. So I will help you again. This is on a white square, this is on a white square, and this is on a white square, right? So what do you have to do? e5. e5 is the move to play, okay? It's a great move. Here it says, with a single stroke, black reconcile multiple goals. 1. Transfer the light square bishop to its most damaging post, the a6 f1 diagonal, right? So this is the reason of a5. 2. If a white rook chooses to move after bishop a6, then c4. You understand, once this is here, if this is move, boom, and you have two pawns that are pass, so oh my god, it's impossible. You understand all the lines. This is really the strength of two bishops. So it's a mess for black, right? Sorry, for white. And then, so the two passers are enough to win the game. So what did he played g3, because obviously otherwise this starts to become overloaded. And of course, here Lakdawala analyzes this. That is a mistake. Okay, so I don't want to analyze it. You can do it by yourself because you need to do some good homework, right? Bishop a6. And now what do? White understand that he cannot move that, right? And once more I tell you, the typical modus operandi of a grandmaster is that when you attack one piece, he doesn't move it, he doesn't defend, he attacks, and this is the move. Okay, black goes here, and at this point, yes, it seems white didn't know what else to do, and he probably pooped in his pants. Why? Because again, these are two pass pawns. When they reach this, you need to sack everything, no? And so after rook c1, boom, c4, right? And this is a discovery check. Imagine how powerful are these, how powerful is all this situation, right? So it's kind of scary. Now, obviously this is check, so you cannot attack there, you have to move the king. And at this point, black return to the long diagonal where he has more strength, where he can advance the pawns, because now this is defended, right? So what is this doing? So at this point you need to understand which piece is not doing the maximum, and this is the move. Okay, yeah, he goes here, and at this point it seems that black made a mistake, a dubious move. He should have played this, but maybe it was long time, he says, and so he played this. That is obviously not so good, right? You want all your pieces to go always forward, always in the enemy territory, because that's how you attack. But unfortunately, this is what he did, queen d8. And rook fc1, trying to obviously stop those terrible pawns. Rook b8. And now there is d6. Rook takes b1, rook takes b1. And now rook e8, attacking the defender of that. Because again, these two, when they are going forward, because this is blocking, they are unstoppable. And white will have to give a lot, right? So here he plays knight d5, and here the black player made a mistake. Okay, he made a really mistake. He played c3 right away. Instead, what do you think black should have done? Again, I just told you guys what black should have done. In chess, you must be courageous, you must not be afraid, and that's the problem, right? Because some of us have some internal traits, something that prevent us from seeing what you need to do. The move obviously was this, because once you play this, more or less everything falls. F takes e4, boom, queen takes d6, queen takes a5, h5, attacking, and the game is practically over. So that's why. Instead, like I said, he played this move, but luckily luckily, at this point, white needs to decide with which knight to take. The correct knight is this one, but he played this one. So imagine that. And here there is a beautiful analysis made by Cyrus with this Houdini that shows why it's wrong. And here he ends saying, life offers second chances. Well, not always, but okay. And again, now he plays, boom, this. I would again tell you, pause the video and tell me what you're going to play, okay? You need to tell me what you're going to play as black. Take the time you need, because try to make it like a real game. And this is what really makes you good when reading a book. If you're just moving the pieces without stopping, it's not gonna work. Thanks to this video, you have the chance to pause in this moment, that is a critical moment for black, and decide what to do. So what do you think what black did? Black played bishop takes c3. A beautiful, beautiful move, right? Of course, once you take on c3, your queen is gone. But now there is an even stronger move. What would you play now as black? Again, guys, I tell you, you need to avoid to be scared, and you need to feel the power of the bishops, because the bishops are scary, okay? They are even stronger than a rook. They are not a joke. So the move here is rook e2, king h3, obviously, no? Because if you take on e2, it's over, because you cannot stop it. Here, however, it shows you also what happens if it does this. It doesn't work either. If you want, you can find it out for yourself. So what do you think black does here? Because again, I continue to ask you questions because you need to find yourself as in a real game. The move is this, bishop c8, g4, and now obviously finally you have removed this from this, and now you need to remove this, right? And so, ta-da. Now there is rook d8, obviously, king g7, rook takes e8. Here you understand this must be stopped at a certain point, so let's see how white thinks that he's gonna do it, because it's kind of interesting. And here obviously is checkmate, so be aware. He plays this, and black plays this. And after this, the game is over, okay? So that's why I told you this was checkmate, because if you try to play this, oops, how do you stop it again? And now you have a big problem. So that's why after this, d2, and the game is over. Here, summary, white position looked too passive to exploit his light development led after a4. So this was the second game of the book. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely did. It was really beautiful. And let me know if you want to see more games from this great book written by Cyrus Lakdawala, and with title The Modern Move by Move. Thank you for watching.